presentation without the pictures, okay? So that's no issue, because there's enough of material which would conflict with the book itself, okay? I bought the book, so I have no problem. So if you do show me you bought the book, you're welcome to take it all. Only give it to someone who only has the book if you are giving it to anybody in the future. So here we said the leader or manager adjusts his style to fit the development level of the followers. Maybe I have a small question for you. What's the difference between a leader and a manager? That sound very similar words. Guess. Very good, you're on the right track. A leader focuses on people, the team. A manager focuses on the task. Very often today you find Christians focusing on the task. The people are irrelevant. I only want to get the job done. As a result of which, the team gets damaged. The task may be done, but the team gets damaged. And I do not consider that relevant or good leadership for anyone. So next time when you are leading, and you may say, we are not really leading anything, everybody is leading someone. And if you're not leading anyone, one person certainly you're leading is yourself. The question is, in our lives, how are we being developed over time? We never question ourselves. If we are not being developed, we are poor leaders of our lives. And that, by the way, brothers and sisters, if you weren't sure till now, is a sin. And that's a sin most people are guilty of, including myself. We never question that. How have we led our lives? How have we maintained our bodies? I remember one person once telling me, what kind of priests are you? Forgive me for saying this. Most of the priests are overweight and unfit at a very early age. He said, you can't lead yourself. How are you going to convince me that you can lead a church? Didn't happen in India. Indians usually in Asians are more polite. Okay, straight question. And that time I wasn't a priest. So I explained to him that everybody has weaknesses, and we do have weaknesses as well. But a very good question is, how much time and investment are you spending on your health? Physical, intellectual, social. In the next 10 years, 50% of the jobs are going to go away because of various technological developments. Are you prepared for it? Are you preparing for it? Or are you going to wait and say, the devil punished me? One excuse. Most people are not prepared for it. And they're going to get hit by something which they just won't be ready for. Tomorrow, if you lose your job, do you have sufficient income to manage for 24 months without any new source of income? Then you can say things are stable. 24 months. No income sources at all. Most people are not even heading towards that target. Something goes wrong, and then they press the panic button. I'm not saying, of course, give to God, of course, give your tithe. That's all needed. But how do we spend money? That's how we're leading our life. Situational leadership relies on the belief there's no one style of leadership. Okay? Everything, the leadership depends on two things I mentioned earlier, team and task. What is the task to be performed? What is the makeup of the team? So the best leaders will take time to check the task and all the variables, weigh them, and then decide what kind of leadership style I'm going to use. So there's no fixed choice. We'll see Jesus, at least in the Bible when we analyze, used all 4 styles of situational leadership. So sometimes you may need to use one style. There are 4 basic styles, but they could be modified. The 4 styles of leadership are directing, coaching, supporting, delegating. Don't worry, I can give you a copy of all this. Only the pictures, these are the, images or models. I can give you a copy of this, no problem, okay? So relax, you don't need to copy anything. 21st century, we are transferring stuff from the screen to books. Tragedy, and we call that leadership. That's a disgrace. It shouldn't happen, okay? Shouldn't happen, but it's happening still. In many of our prayer groups, it's happening in our homes, it's happening in our institutions, in schools. Doesn't have to. In fact, I've even seen places, people just take out their camera and take a big shot straight away of the full slide. I don't have a problem with that because you will get a poor resolution picture, so you can take a picture of anything you want. Okay, I have full rights. Okay, only don't use the flash. Okay, that'll disturb the group. You can take a picture, whatever you say. So we look at two parameters here. One is directive behavior. What kind of directions I am giving the team. Second is supportive behavior. How am I supporting the team? Another similar model, the same model, just explode a little more. We look at each of these quadrants separately. First quadrant, delegating. Low direction, the leader does not direct the team much, doesn't support the team much at all. Team decides, okay? Second part, as you're moving in this direction, okay? High direction, low supportive. There's not much supporting here, okay? Third part here, high direction, high supporting, we call that coaching. And the fourth part, low direction, okay, and high supporting, we call it supporting. So 4 options of leadership: direction, coaching, supporting, delegating. We'll look at each of these in detail. And then we'll see how Jesus used all 4, okay? I mean, there are plenty of cases in the Bible across. I've just chosen some passages. You can get enough of passages. Old Testament, New Testament, epistles, it's everywhere. First stage, directing. Directing style of leadership is associated with autocratic leadership. Directing leader makes all the decisions. I don't consult anybody else, okay? Consult the subordinates. They inform their team of the decisions and they expect the team to carry it out. I am telling you, you need to do it. It's not a choice of whether you can decide what you want to do. Feedback from the team is discouraged. The directing leader decides who, what, when, where, how. I'm the boss. I tell you what to do. Now you may say, I don't like this style. Did Jesus use it? Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You can change that to Matthew 21:1. Wait a second, I think. Oh, yeah, sorry, I think accidentally it's got deleted. I don't know how it's got deleted, okay? The verse says, and when they drew near to Jerusalem and came to Bethphage, to the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, go into the village opposite you, and immediately you will find an ass tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. Is there one more? Yeah, if you can just plug this in. I think this has the Bible verses on it. So what is he saying? Go into the villages opposite to you, and immediately you will find an ass tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. Any doubt? Direction? I am telling you. Go, do, you will find this. This is what you do when you find it. Bring them to me. Direction. Now you may look at, Jesus was an autocrat. When the team required him to direct them, that's what he did. For instance, suppose you see an accident outside. You don't know anything about medical care. So the person is bleeding. What do? You're a doctor. The rest may not have any medical expertise. You'll say, let's decide as a team. By the time you decide as a team, the person will die, okay? So at that point, you have to make quick decisions, directive decisions, if you like to call the word bossy decisions, okay? Autocratic decisions to say, do this, send him to the hospital, catch his chest here, stop the bleeding, okay? Give him whatever treatment is required. You have to tell them, you have to direct them. Often we talk about, we have to see the situation. So don't think that it's bad, depends on the situation. So we look at the next type. The next one is coaching. Highly directive and highly supportive behavior. As we said, the second part on the top right, okay? The slide will come up. With a coaching leadership style, the leader still defines the roles in the task. So he's still directing a lot, okay? However, in contrast to directing, is more receptive to the input and feedback from the subordinates. Okay, we can see this coaching style here. He's far more receptive. Leader decides a lot of things, but the team also decides. So the leader is not deciding solo, both are deciding. Okay? And he puts players into the best position and directs the group in order to obtain the best performance. Football teams, cricket teams, Indian cricket team, difficult to decide whether they're coaching or directing sometimes. Especially if you saw the match against Pakistan. Question whether it was fixed or not. Even the umpires were questioning whether the players were really acting in the team's best interest. The commentators. So you see, there's some kind of democracy because both are deciding. Okay? Coaching works in particular circumstances it won't work. Let's see how Jesus coached his people, And he called to him his 12 disciples and gave them authority. I'm giving you something, direction over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal every disease and every infirmity. These 12 Jesus sent out, charging them, go nowhere among the Gentiles and enter no town of the Samaritans. That's verse 6. But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. They're going, they're by themselves. I am supporting you, but I'm not there with you. Coach. So mission is often coaching. Sometimes we say mission, and the mission is also direction. Do this, do that. But you need to balance it out. I'm sure Colin takes a lot of people with mission. And the idea on mission, the idea is the person accompanying the leader also gets developed because he or she or they are also taking decisions. Both. Team leader plus person. This is extremely useful also when you have a group. Okay? Part of the way of coaching is also to meet, to interact, to review, to have feedback. How are we doing? Are you happy with the way things are going? Do we have this happening in our families? Do we have this thing happening in our prayer groups? I don't know about you. I remember very long ago they used to have it. But I've never seen any feedback sessions of recent, at least in any prayer groups that I'm associated with. What's the danger of not using the coaching style, or at least no feedback? We don't know when we make mistakes. So we just repeat the mistakes again and again and again. And usually we discover the mistakes at the time of breakdown. Something badly has gone wrong. Now we have to act. Had we chosen the coaching model carefully, where both people were deciding leader, prayer group leader, and also co-group, or maybe even a wider, group of people in the prayer meeting, a lot of difficulties could have been avoided. I've seen many groups over a period of time, a lot of difficulties. Third style, supporting. So again, top left-hand quadrant, okay. High supportive behavior and low direction. So the leader says, the team says, let's talk, and the team decides. Leader doesn't do much. So when we look at this, the supporting leader may participate to some degree, okay? But in the idea creation and decision making, but most of the decisions will come from the team. Now suppose you have a team sometimes, and we do have this in some groups and some teams and some prayer groups, where the team managing the prayer group is more skilled than the leader by virtue of their jobs, by virtue of their experience, by virtue of their skills, But often, sometimes, because the leader is insecure, he or she clamps down. You can't do anything unless I tell you. And then the team gets frustrated. Why? They can see that the leader is not as competent as he or she should be. And then some leave, or some say, I'll just shut my mouth and keep quiet. Okay? But what the leader should do is support them. Some people, even in our church, we have this. They're extremely competent lay people, and you'll have one priest, I include myself in the group, okay, who's not very competent, and he's making repeated mistakes. What happens? People leave the church. And then the priest will sometimes blame them and say, see, they are not committed. Never questioned why they left. Today we have a crisis. I don't know what the numbers are in Bangalore, but I'm willing to bet they are close to these numbers. In our parish and the surrounding parishes, we estimate at least 50% of the people are not coming to church on Sunday. 50%. Frightening statistics. I could comfortably say Bangalore is at least 30%, maybe more, okay? And this percentage is going to increase. Are we ready for it? And somehow the church as a whole does not seem to be really seriously concerned. Why? Our love offerings are still coming in. The money is there. Where we will press the panic button is when the money starts dropping. Till then, we are secure. This can even happen in prayer meetings. Love offerings are there. And if you check, 80% of the money is coming from 20% of the people. Okay? Most prayer meetings. If those 20% go, or part of that 20% goes, love offerings will drop. I was part of a prayer meeting. Love offering was about 10,000, 12,000. One person alone used to put 6,000 rupees in. And the remaining 200 used to put 4,000. That one fellow left. Came down to 4,000. What happened? Our love offering dropped. Okay. I mean, he left not because he was unhappy with the prayer meeting, but he had other commitments. Okay. So, problem. And that's why we need to constantly check. How does the group feel supported? Do they feel they are taking decisions and the leader is slowly directing less and less? Let's see how Jesus used this, okay? This type of leader appeared to be quiet, lead by example, and appeared to be an equal team member rather than the ruler. The moment you and I like to be rulers, we are on dangerous ground. It is natural for most people, myself included, we like to hear our own voice and our own opinions. That's normal. That's called human weakness. The question is whether we yield to this weakness or we are aware of it. If you're not aware of it, it can be dangerous. Jesus' case, Matthew 12:1, his disciples were hungry, and what did they do? They began to pluck heads of grain to eat. Or the Pharisees say, look, your disciples are doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath. He said to them, have you not read what David did when he was hungry and those who were with him? How he entered the house of God and ate the bread of the presence, which it was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those who were with him, but only for the priests. Today morning's gospel reading, that's why I didn't focus on the gospel reading, because I knew I was going to use it later on. Okay? Look at the two styles. For the Jews, any kind of activity on Sunday was considered unacceptable. So much so, I have not seen this, but people have told me, the only place in the world where they have voice-operated lifts, or the maximum number, is in Israel. So they don't even have to press the button, because that is also work on the Sabbath. Okay? So floor number 39, and your elevator automatically goes up. I don't know, any of you have seen it, you can just raise your hands. I haven't seen one, okay? But I've heard about it, okay? Voice operated. Why? Letter of the law. Ritual is so important, okay? I have to follow no work on Sundays. Not even press a button, okay? And what Jesus is saying, look at the priority. This precedence has already been broken. Why are you complaining? Sometimes we are like that. We don't support the team. Team makes a mistake. I told you. Their fault only. They don't have enough training. Blame them. Okay? Maybe they didn't have enough energy. They tried their best and they failed. What did we do? Sorry? Exactly. Okay, you failed. Next time you'll do better. If you know genuinely they have tried close to their best. People are going to fail. How are we going to respond? I've seen sometimes things go well, leader takes credit with the team. Things go badly, they are not my team members. They didn't follow what I told them. Could be dangerous. Last, delegating. Low directive and low supportive behavior. We see this here. Delegating leaders are responsible for their team, but they provide minimal direction and guidance. Hands-off style of leadership, similar to laissez-faire leadership, where the group makes most of all the decisions. This type of leader is more concerned with communicating the vision than directing day to day. They will decide, that's the team will decide what next should be to move forward their vision, but it is left to the subordinates to determine how to achieve that step. So leader may decide what to do next, or sometimes even team may decide, but subordinates will make sure this is the way to go forward. Delegation is the highest form in terms of developing the team. So you have 4 styles. Go from the beginning. Take it back to that slide here. Directing, leader decides. Coaching, leader and team decide. Supporting, team decides mainly, minimum support from the leader. Delegating, minimum support to the team, minimum support from the leader. They are empowered to carry out their task. Now you may have to look at any of these 4 tasks depending on the team. Sorry. Okay, let's take a look at the last one, okay? When it was evening, the disciples came and said, "This is a lonely place and the day is now over. Send the crowds away to go into the villages and buy food from themselves." Jesus said, "They need not go away. You give them something to eat." What style? Fantastic. That's a print yellow, okay? So I've used different colors. They said to him, "We have only 5 loaves and 2 fish. We are telling you straight. That's all we can do." And he said, Bring them to me. Then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass, and taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke and gave the loaves to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. Okay? You give them something to eat. Delegation. The directive is in white. This is what I'm telling you to do. Bring them to me, sit down on the grass, take the 5 loaves, and again give the loaves to the disciples to distribute them. Now imagine the disciples would have said, "We only have 5 loaves and 2 fish. How much are we going to give?" And probably after they gave the first few loaves, they're wondering, where is more coming from? There's a certain element of trust which has to take place with delegation. And if trust isn't there, you and me are not going to delegate. And delegation is multiplication. If you really want things to expand fast, we have to delegate as much as possible. But you can't delegate to people if they don't have a clear idea of what they're doing. So you see, sometimes you will have a mix of both. Now we look at another model, okay? How do you develop the team, the individuals in each of these components, okay? Red, of course, is the least effective. Orange, yellow ochre, and whatever, some kind of green color, okay? Light green or light brown, whichever way you want to look at it. X-axis, degree of directive behavior, amount of direction they give their team. Higher the direction, less the team is able to make decisions. More direction, less decisions they take. Y-axis, supportive behavior the leader uses, amount of support they give the team. Higher the support, the more the leader helps the team makes the decision. So your team makes more decisions, leader makes more decisions, okay? Now let's look at how the group is being developed, okay? The individuals. D1 is the lowest, D2 is the highest. First level, low competence, high commitment. I'm not capable, which is why you have to tell me what to do, okay? But I'm committed to doing it, okay? You will get many members in prayer groups like this. In fact, majority of the members will be in this category. They need to be directed, and that's okay. The problem is that they stay directed throughout, okay? That's where the weakness is. Think about it when you came to a prayer meeting. You didn't know what to do. What is this praise and worship? What are these sound systems? How does the whole flow of the meeting go? Okay. The style of leadership depends on the developmental level of your subordinates. The more skilled and experienced your subordinates are, the greater the development level. Low skill, low competence, high commitment. Let's look at the next one. Okay. The enthusiastic beginner, low competence, high commitment. Subordinate may be willing but lacks the skills the task requires. Okay. Next one. You're talking about D2. What is the leadership style on D2? Very good, coaching. Just checking whether you're listening, okay? So I'm going to ask you some questions off and on. You don't have to answer, but if you answer, good. Your subordinate has some competence, but low commitment. I can do something by myself, but I'm not too committed, okay? Commitment is always an issue, and I'm committed reasonably. I attend the prayer meetings, but don't ask me to volunteer to do something. If you ask me, I will do, okay? So that's where the leader has to say, would you like to do? Do we do that? Oh wait, no, they should come and they should ask me, then I will give them the work. But you have to look at their situation, okay? They have the skill, and you will find this often with people who have corporate jobs. At prayer meetings, I'm focusing on prayer meetings, but it could be a parish, it could be even in your job. They have a lot of skill, but they're already tired. So they don't have that much commitment. If you ask them to do, they will do. But after a hard day's work, if they can avoid, they'll be happy to avoid it. Okay? Now you have to weigh their situation, see how much energy they have, and encourage them. One fellow who was very good at this was Colin. I must admire him for that. He would encourage people at the prayer meeting, get people involved, okay? So I remember in the early days, the 90s, I'm talking about it, Bread of Life prayer meeting, a lot of people would get involved. We don't see that so much now, okay? Now it's slightly different. Perhaps it's probably different categories. We'll deal with that later on. Some competence, low commitment. So you have to move this commitment to higher levels through relationships, through friendships, through building contact with the person. People may not do it because they want to, but they will do it because they like you. Okay? So a key factor is building up good relationships. They have the skills, but they need, but for some reason, unwilling or lack confidence to perform the task or situation may be new to them. Encourage them. I think you're capable. Why don't you try? I will support you if you need any assistance. Okay? We're talking about coaching. Both people are involved. Okay? The second quadrant we looked at. We will see these also in connection with the quadrant as well a little later on. So here we call it the disillusioned learner. Okay? I'm learning, but I'm a little disillusioned. Third quadrant. Okay? Moderate competence. So here we are talking about the supportive leader, but variable commitment. Sometimes I feel like doing, sometimes I don't feel like doing. So I have reasonably high competence. They've used the word moderate here, I'll tell you why later. But variable commitment. Your subordinate is more capable of performing the task than before, than D2, okay? But for whatever reason, they're unwilling or lack the confidence to perform the task. Why don't you take praise and worship? No, don't feel like it, okay? Or why don't you give a teaching, a little busy this week, maybe next month we'll see, okay? And usually, they won't give you any definitive time when they are available. Put a little pressure. Tell me when you're free. We'll make sure that you can give a teaching. Or you can take the praise and worship. I will stand with you, okay? I will help you, coaching, okay? But I support you, but not too much coaching, okay? Supportive behavior also has some kind of involvement, leadership, but not that much as coaching, okay? So you will have to find that balance. Can you think of areas how we can support our, people, especially in the context of maybe our parishes? What about our families? All of you come out of families. I'm sure maybe most of you may be living in families. Our spouses, do we direct them? Do we coach them? Do we support them? We'll deal with this question a little later on. The last part, the self-reliant achiever. Your subordinate has high competence, high commitment. They are willing to do, and they have all the skills required, okay? Not for that, they are committed also to take responsibility. It's important to realize that the development level of your team will change over time. Today, somebody may be D1, that is connected with the leadership is directive, and the person is low competent, developing their skills, low competence, and high commitment. Tomorrow, they may be D4. So you and I have to guide them, D1, D2, D3, D4. So we start maybe with directive leadership. We continue with coaching. We move a little further to supportive, and finally to delegation. Sometimes the mistake we make is straight away delegate. I must delegate. You delegate to people who are incompetent, they'll fail. And when they fail, they'll look bad and say, I'm useless. Say, I knew I was useless. They gave me the task and I failed. I failed in the past. I'm failing in the present. I'll fail in the future. So they'll give up hope. And they will not even want to be involved. Do not delegate to people unless you are sure that they are competent. Otherwise, you can make some very serious mistakes. Sometimes people may not recover from that mistake unless they have some, counseling or special system of overcoming the trauma caused by failure. Big failures can have big trauma. So we look at all these 4 styles. Leadership style, directing, low development. Don't stay in the directing style for long, okay? Always try to switch it and move on. Leadership style coaching, medium development, good. Leadership style supporting, again medium development, but a little better than the coaching development. And delegating, high development. I am competent, I feel good, I know I can do it, I'm willing to do it, fantastic. So we need to move our people from developing to developed. And our leadership from directing to delegating. At some point, we will be in all 4 styles, okay? So don't think I'm directing, poor leadership, see my people are not being developed. You need to direct at some time. Direct, don't feel afraid. But constantly review. Constantly ask God, how am I doing? Am I moving forward in the right way? To what degree? And then you will get the right balance that is required. Today, the greatest struggle, I would say, in the world is balance. If we are too dominant in any of these groups, it can be dangerous. No, I just like delegating style. I can't direct, I can't coach, I can't support. It won't last. And our teams are going to constantly change. There is no guarantee that your team is going to be all competent people all the time. Maybe if you're privileged to be in a place like Bangalore, you will get far more competent people. But I can tell you in my parish, we don't have very many competent people. We are in a lower economic area, at least part of our parish is. So people don't have very good education opportunities. There are a large number of, families suffering from addictions. Often people coming out of the families can also come in with a lot of scars. But they don't need to stay that way. They can move beyond. And that's the good news with Jesus. We are never stuck. The moment we are stuck, you can be sure of one thing. We are not doing what Jesus wants. Disciples will never stay stuck. Maybe we'll be stuck for a little time. In rare cases, because God wants it. Most cases, because of our failure. Okay? Sometimes God does permit it. God is such an amazing person who can outthink us, understand us, far, far ahead of us. We will never understand him in our lifetime. But we need to not understand him, we need to trust him. Okay? And as God sends people to direct us, coach us, support us, and delegate us, God will also use us to do those 4 things. In your families, with your spouse, with your children, with your parents, if your parents are staying with you. What do? Do you make your parents dependent? You can't do anything. You can't understand this technology. I will do everything for you. Directing. And your parents, then tomorrow, you go away far, or you have to, no, please don't leave. I need you. Where will my director go? So you see, we've produced dependency, actually weakening people. Long-term directive What do you see? Style of leadership damages people continuously. But short-term directive may even be good for a group that's not very competent. With our children, we need to move from direction when they are small, to coaching as they get older, to supportive as they get in their teenage years, to delegation when they are, say, maybe 15 plus. If it's not been done, I would encourage you children, take over. Parents today don't give their children any tasks. No, you're studying. Poor boy, poor baba. Okay, poor daughter, I must help her. Don't give her any work. Don't give him any work. Oh, he's a boy. He doesn't have to work in the kitchen. Okay? All work should be shared irrespective of gender. Okay? I know cases, men are so weak, they can't make a cup of tea. Okay? Wife is sick. She's suffering from fever. No, you must make my tea. How will I manage? What will I drink for tea? One kick he needs to get. Okay? Teach him. Okay? Direct him. And now sometimes, wives or husbands, you may need to do this for your husband. Husbands, if you're here and you're like in that category I mentioned, forgive me, okay? But say, no, I'm going to change, okay? I have become dependent because I had a directive parent. But I'm not going to stay that way. I want my development to improve. Tell me, can I volunteer? Can I wash the vessels? Can I make the breakfast? You may not be great cooks. Very few men are really good cooks, okay? But you can do moderate tasks, cutting vegetables, helping your wife, helping your parents. Sure. Do we do it? And sometimes women are also responsible for this. You can't cook. I will do everything. Intentions are good, but unfortunately result is bad. Okay? Directive, again. Move to delegation, where any member of the house can do any task if required in an emergency. Any task. Cooking, cleaning, shopping, marketing, whatever it needs to be done. I have seen houses, one crucial member collapses, family collapses. Who's responsible? Parents. Parents. Wife died, husband died shortly. He was so dependent on the wife, after she died, he couldn't do anything, he had to die. Okay? Problem. Okay? I would like to call this, forgive me, I'm coining my own phrase, poor leadership suicide, where indirectly, because of poor leadership, the person is driven to reduce their life expectancy. Now, who will do for me? How will I cook? Who will make my tea? Not worth living. Husband suffering from depression. Okay? Whatever we get is a gift from our parents, from our children, from our friends. And as you and I treasure these gifts, something wonderful will happen. We look at the last slide. Advantages and disadvantages. Advantages are very easy to use, okay? So I would encourage you, use it, evaluate the situation in your families, simply assess the current situation and select one of 4 leadership styles. Your leadership style may vary from the issue. Cooking, you may have one leadership style. Marketing, you may have another leadership style. Different tasks done at home, okay? It's intuitive. You have to feel it in your mind, okay? Different situations require different approaches, disadvantages. Distinguish between leadership, managing people, management, managing tasks. Some studies show models ineffectiveness is getting results. So guarantee this will work everywhere. At least some studies say that. Changing your style based on the current situation can prevent you from choosing a style that will work for the long term. So maybe if you've chosen the wrong style, we need to change our style, or made the wrong mix, okay? To use the model, you must be able to accurately assess the current situation. What is the situation? What is the state of the team? What is the type of task we are doing? So we have to assess that before deciding what type of leadership, what type of development. And this is subjective, so you could make a mistake. Jesus was the person who made sure everything changed. And I want to look at this last scripture passage. But say the word and let my servant be healed. What style? Delegation. You say, I know he's going to be healed. Okay. And this, the centurion is telling him that. Okay. For I am a man under authority, under me, and I say to one, go, and he goes, and another, come, and he comes, and to my slave, do this, and he does it. And Jesus heard this, he marveled at him and turned and said to the multitude that followed him, I tell you, not even in Israel have I found such faith. Supportive. Okay? So you see 3 styles of leadership here. Directive in between, delegation on top, and supportive down. So we might have to vary our style even within the same interaction. No easy answers. Maybe I have confused you more than you were before you started out. But one thing is clear. You have some new ideas. You have some new models. And it's up to you and me to make a difference. So our question would be, you can take down this question. What is the dominant style of leadership I am using in my life? What is the dominant style of leadership? Okay? Based on the situational leadership model. We have the 4 styles: directive, coaching, supportive, and delegating. Okay? What is a dominant style? Most of us have a dominant style. We like that, okay? And what is the dominant situation or assessment I make of the team I am managing? Okay? Whether the team is family, what is the dominant, what is the my assessment of the team I am managing? My development assessment of the team I am managing. What is the dominant style of my leadership in my situation? And what is my development assessment of the team I am managing? Team could be family, team could be prayer group, team could be office, team could be anywhere else. Okay? Let's just close our eyes in prayer. Lord Jesus, we pray this evening for you to empower us to look at our situations and make the right decisions, to evaluate the task and you evaluate our leadership style within the teams we are managing as well. Help us to help us to be directed by your Spirit and make the decisions you want us to make, empowered by humility, love, prayer, and service. We make these prayers through Christ our Lord, the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.